Hello everyone. Now let's see section 18. Availability of credit in special circumstances. This can also be called as transitional provisions. Transition means if you become taxable for the first time, for example, then how you will take credit. Or you were exempt earlier and then your goods become taxable or your service becomes taxable, or you were under composition scheme and you come out of the composition scheme and start paying normal tax. So in all these situations, how the credit will be allowed at the initial stage, that is at the time of registration or at the time when you become taxable. Okay, so this we'll see in subsection 1 of section 18 and then a few other things. Let's see. Subject to such conditions and restrictions as may be prescribed. So prescribed means as per the rules. So we'll see the rules. First we'll see the section, then we'll see the rules. A person who has applied for registration under the Act within 30 days from the date on which he becomes liable to registration and has been granted such registration. Means you apply, you become liable for registration in the first place. You become liable, and after you become liable for registration, you apply within 30 days. So if that happens, we'll see this in the chapter of registration later on, that if you become liable and you apply within 30 days, then you are granted registration from the back date. That is when you become liable for registration. Okay, when you will become liable for tax basically. When you become liable to pay tax, that is a point of time when you also become liable to register yourself. So if you apply within 30 days, then your registration is backdated from this date. And what we have to do now is, let me explain. Let us see the example. Because if you read this, you will not understand anything. So first we'll take an example. So here you are not liable to tax, and then a day comes when you become liable to pay tax. Okay, so on this day you become liable to pay tax. This is, say for example, 3rd of August of any particular year, you become liable to pay tax. Now what happens is that you have to apply within 30 days for registration and then you will be registered. So for example, you apply for registration on 16th of August and you are granted registration from 3rd August itself, that is the day when you become liable to pay tax. So your registration is backdated. You are registered from 3rd of August itself. Okay, and you become liable to pay tax also from 3rd August itself. Means all the goods or services that you are providing from 3rd August, you are supplying from 3rd August will be liable to tax. Okay, so all supplies from this date are taxable, right? Now if the supplies are taxable, then if I am a manufacturer, so supply means finished goods. So the raw material that I have bought and brought to my premises would have been brought before this date, right? So the raw materials that have come here at this point of time when I was not liable to tax, say for example I was below the threshold limit of 20 lakh 10 lakh, so I was not liable to tax. So when I was not liable to tax, have I taken ITC on these raw materials? No. Or if I am a trader, then I must have bought my stock. So when I bought the stock, have I taken ITC? No. But now, whatever is the stock with me on this date, whatever is the stock on this date, if I supply this stock tomorrow, it is liable to tax. That means that the raw material that I have bought here should have been, I mean to say the GST on them should have been taken as credit. Because these raw materials have gone to manufacture these finished goods which are taxable. So if the finished goods are taxable, you should have got credit on your inputs. But have you taken? No. So take it. So that is the first transitional provision that we are going to see in subsection 1. 4 points are there, A, B, C, D, in which the first 2 points are that you become liable to tax and you register yourself for the first time, and C and D are if you come out of composition scheme into taxable zone, or you are exempt earlier and you become taxable. So 4 points we are going to see. The logic calculation will remain the same, so understand it in the first stage itself. Okay, so what we are going to do is that we are going to take this stock on 3rd of August, that is at the beginning of 3rd August, means on the end of 2nd of August, because from 3rd you are taxable. So we will see the stock of what? Stock of inputs as such. So inputs as such means the raw material that I have bought, or the stock in trade that I have bought, and it is lying on this day as such, means the raw materials lying as raw materials. So these raw materials which are lying with me, on which I haven't taken ITC, no ITC was allowed, okay, but these raw materials will be used tomorrow to make finished goods, and then when those finished goods will be supplied, they will be taxable, means there will be double taxation, raw material also taxed and finished goods will again be taxed. So to avoid that double taxation, government says that okay, take whatever inputs you have, find out the inputs and avail credit of the GST paid on these inputs. So this is also called as the initial credit. Whatever stock is lying with us, we can avail credit on that. So we'll find inputs as such. Then second category is that the inputs which we had purchased earlier might have gone into production. So on 2nd August, end of 2nd August, there might be some inputs which are into the production process, means they are not inputs as such, nor they have converted into finished goods. They are in process, work in progress. In costing language we call it as work in process, right? So some inputs might be contained in the work in process on this date. So we'll see that also, how much inputs is in WIP, work in process, and some inputs might have been consumed and finished goods also produced before this date, but those finished goods are lying in stock with me. So when I will sell these finished goods tomorrow, they are liable to GST, means I should have got credit on the inputs that were used to manufacture these finished goods, right? So we'll find that also. So the third point is inputs in finished goods stock. So whatever finished goods are lying with me, I am not going to just calculate how much finished goods are there. We are calculating how much input has been consumed to manufacture these finished goods. Okay, how much input was consumed to manufacture these finished goods which are in stock. So this will get from the input output ratios. We have input output ratio. So if we have say 10 units of output, we would know that how much input would have gone into it, right? So we'll do a little bit of back calculation and find this. So I've got inputs as such, inputs in WIP and inputs in finished goods stock. Yes, take the total. Then see that when these inputs, suppose this comes to, I'll take a rough figure as 12,000 units or kgs or whatever it may be, and this we are going to do for each type of raw material that we have. So for me to write here it's very simple, but to do it in practical sense it's highly difficult, because in a factory, in a big factory say, there would be hundreds of types of inputs. So you will make this calculation for each input. Okay. Okay, so if this comes to 12,000 units, now what I'll do is I will take out the invoices of these inputs, okay, the past invoices, and see that what was the GST charged on these 12,000 units when they were brought to the factory. So we'll see what was the GST paid thereon, and we'll get some bills which are intrastate, some bills which are interstate, so whatever it may be. It may be intra, it may be inter, but you will take this out of the latest bills, latest invoices before 2nd of August. So the latest invoices will be taken. The FIFO method will be applied, first in first out. So whatever is in stock is out of the latest purchases, right? So we'll see the latest purchases. So we'll find out the invoices, and from those invoices we'll find out how much GST was paid thereon. This GST can be central GST, state GST, IGST or UTGST. So whatever it is, we'll find out, and we will avail ITC. We will avail ITC of this GST. And as you know that if we have different types of GST, just for example CGST, SGST, UTGST and IGST. So when credit is taken, they are posted in the relevant accounts. Each item is kept separately. CGST credit kept separately, IGST credit kept separately, SGST credit kept separately, and similarly UTGST. So we will avail ITC in the relevant account. Okay. So this is called as the initial credit. Did you got the logic behind that? I'll explain again at the end that this is the input stock with me, input as such, or in WIP or in finished goods, lying with me on the day of registration. That is when I become taxable. My supplies become taxable from this day. So these supplies will be out of these finished goods which are already in stock, or this WIP that will convert into finished goods later on and then supply will take place, or the inputs which are lying with me will be consumed tomorrow and we will manufacture the finished goods and supply them. So they are all taxable. As they are all taxable, we will get credit of these inputs. So we'll find out, we'll make calculation and take initial credit. Got it? Very simple. And what will happen to inputs that are received after this date in the factory? We will take normal credit. If any input comes to us, means is received in the factory after this date, means from 3rd of August, we will take normal credit. Okay? Understood this concept? Very good. Now understand this very carefully, because we'll see the reverse of this also. Suppose a day comes when your taxable goods become exempt. Your taxable supplies become exempt supplies, or you go into composition scheme. Then a reverse process has to be done. We'll find out the stock again, and now we will reverse the credit that has been taken, because you are taxable, and from taxable you go into exempt zone. So when you are taxable, you have been taking ITC, so we will have to reverse the ITC. So we'll do the same calculation, then we'll see how much ITC is taken and we will reverse it. So when you go from not liable, means exempt, to taxable, you have to avail the credit, and when you go from taxable to exempt zone, you have to reverse the credit. Calculation remains same. Entry will be vice versa. So let's see. So we'll see this A, B, C and D. The situations change, logic remains the same. Okay, and then one difference is there. I'll explain it to you. So read A. A person who has applied for registration under the Act within 30 days from the date of date on which he becomes liable for registration and has been granted such registration shall be entitled to take credit of input tax in respect of inputs held in stock. Inputs held in stock means as such, and inputs contained in semi-finished, semi-finished means WIP, work in progress, or finished goods held in stock. So input as such, input in WIP, input in finished goods stock. Three things we'll calculate. On the day immediately preceding the day from which he becomes liable to pay tax, means if he becomes liable from 3rd of August, we'll do stock calculation on 2nd August at the end of the day. Okay, 1 point. Then coming to B, a person who takes registration under subsection 3 of section 25, write down voluntary registration, means he is not liable to be registered, but he still takes a voluntary registration. You can do so. Why? We'll see under section 25 later on. Shall be entitled to take credit of input tax in respect of inputs held in stock and inputs containing semi-finished and finished goods held in stock. Logic will remain same, calculation remains same, only the date changes. On the day immediately preceding the date of grant of registration. So see the difference in A and B. A says when he becomes liable to pay tax, so it is backdated. It is backdated. Your registration is granted on a particular day, but it is granted with retrospective effect from the day when you become liable. So the calculation will be done on this day when you become liable. Okay. But in case of voluntary registration, it is from the date of grant of registration. The day you are granted registration is the day when we'll calculate the stock and then take initial credit. Okay. Because you become liable to pay tax also when you are granted the registration, not before that. So this point is there, grant of registration. Then third point, that is C, says where any registered person ceases to pay tax under section 10. Section 10 is composition scheme. So when he ceases to pay tax under section 10, means he was in composition scheme and now he comes out of it into normal taxable scheme. So in composition scheme, what happens is that you don't take any credits, no credit on my inputs, and I pay only a nominal rate on my supplies. That's it. Okay, that is composition scheme. Now if that ceases to apply, so that will happen in two cases, because composition scheme is optional. So one thing is you are opting out of it. Yeah, so you can opt out of composition scheme. That is one scenario. Number two is if your turnover crosses the limit. If your turnover crosses the limit of the composition scheme, then you are out of the scheme. Okay. So in those situations, what will happen? He shall be entitled to take credit of input tax in respect of inputs held in stock, inputs containing semi-finished goods or finished goods held in stock. So this part remains the same. Same logic, same calculation. And on capital goods. So this is a new point. If you are coming out of composition scheme into normal taxable scheme, you can take credit not only on inputs but also on capital goods. Capital goods. So here capital goods is also allowed. On the day immediately preceding the date from which he becomes liable to pay tax under section 9. Section 9 means the normal tax at full rate with ITC. But provided that the credit on capital goods shall be reduced by such percentage points as may be prescribed. Now the logic of this is taken from section 17. Section 17 we saw in the last lecture. It says that for capital goods the estimated life is taken as 5 years. So suppose I was in composition scheme when I bought this asset. I was in composition scheme for say 4-5 years. So I had bought this asset some 2 years back. Okay, and for 2 years I have been using it and I have been paying tax under composition scheme. So I haven't taken the ITC. It's true, I haven't taken the ITC, but I was using it for 2 years. Now I change it to normal taxable scheme. I opt out or I am thrown out because my turnover increases. In both the cases. Now when I have come out, will I get full credit of the capital goods? Capital goods that were bought 2 years back and we have been using it for 2 years. So will I get full credit of the full GST? No. So obviously here it is given as may be prescribed. So as may be prescribed is as per the rule that we are going to see after this section. But what is it going to say? I am telling you right now. It is going to say the same thing, that the life is of 5 years. So whatever period has gone, you deduct that much amount. So that is basically what we do, 5% per quarter. See, 5 years means 60 months. 60 months if we divide by 3, we'll get 20 quarters. So 5 years can be called as 20 quarters. 5 into 4, 20. 20, and if I divide 100 by 20, 100% divided by, if I amortize it, so if I divide it by 20, it gives me 5. So 5% per quarter, right? So that is called as amortization of credit. So on capital goods, it is a simple process, amortize it over 5 years. Amortize the credit over 5 years. So whatever quarters have gone, already used, we will deduct that much. And the balance which is left will be allowed to you as initial ITC on capital goods. Understood? So that calculation we are going to do. It is written in the rule, we are going to see it. But right now you remember that if you are coming out of composition levy into the normal taxable scheme, you will get credit, initial credit, not only on your inputs, stock, but also on capital goods. And similarly, clause number D is there. Where any exempt supply, now your supply was exempt, okay, of goods or service or both, by a registered person becomes a taxable supply. So earlier it was exempt, now the government has removed that exemption notification, so it has become taxable. The remaining part is same. The remaining part is same. You can take credit on inputs held in stock or in WIP or in finished goods relatable to exempt and so and on capital goods exclusively used for such exempt supply on the day immediately preceding the day when taxable, provided that on capital goods it shall be reduced by such percentage points as may be prescribed. So this is again as per the rules. So C and D is the same thing, only difference is C is composition to normal taxable scheme and D is exemption to taxable. So 4 points, you will remember these 4 points, simple points. One is registration, or you can say compulsory registration, which credit you will get only on inputs. Then voluntary registration, again on inputs. So in case of registrations, you get credit only on inputs, not of capital goods. But in case of composition to normal scheme, you get credit on inputs plus capital goods. And similarly, exempt to taxable, you will get on inputs plus capital goods. But on capital goods will not get full, will get some reduced amount. Okay, so that is section 18(1). Now let's move ahead. Subsection 2 says, a registered person shall not be entitled to take input tax credit under subsection 1 in respect of any supply of goods or service or both to him after the expiry of 1 year from the date of issue of tax invoice relating to such supply. Means you have to take credit within 1 year of the invoice date. If 1 year has expired, then you will not get the credit. Okay, so all those invoices that we had should have been issued within the last 1 year. If they are issued before that, then no credit can be taken. Okay, then next point is another change. So this section basically is about the changes, all the different kinds of changes which take place. So let's see now. 3 is a different kind of change. It says where there is a change in the constitution of the registered person. Means the stock is with me, I am also one business house, but the constitution has undergone a change on account of sale. Means it was my business, I am selling it to you. Farooqa classes sold to you. So you will become owner of Farooqa classes. So can my stock which I transfer to you, what will happen to that stock? So let's see. Sale, merger, demergers, amalgamations, lease or transfer of the business with the specific provision of transfer of liabilities. So what it means is that the transfer is as a going concern. Okay, so it is not sale of one asset, it is sale of the whole business as a going concern. So whenever this is written that with a condition that liability should also be transferred, not just assets but also the liability, that means the whole business is getting transferred. Asset plus liability means it is transferred as a going concern. The said registered person shall be allowed to transfer the input tax credit which remains unutilized in his electronic credit ledger to such sold, merged, demerged, amalgamated, leased or transferred business in such manner as may be prescribed. So prescribed is again as per the rules we are going to see. So what it says is that in case of sale of business, if I have got credit in my books, I can transfer that credit to you, the buyer. Or in case of amalgamation, the amalgamating company can transfer its credit to the amalgamated company. Balance credit, balance in electronic credit ledger can be transferred. Simple. Then subsection 4 comes. Now 4 is the reverse. We were paying normal tax and now we opt for composition scheme. We opt for composition scheme. So I was paying normal tax, now I pay composition tax. Or I was paying tax and the government has exempted my goods or services, so I become exempt. Then what to do? Then the same thing. You have to again calculate the input stock as such in work in progress or finished goods, and now you have to reverse that credit. Why reversal? Because now my finished goods have become exempt. So if finished goods have become exempt, then the raw materials which have been used to manufacture this finished good should not be entitled to ITC. But we have taken the ITC. So government says reverse it. So here we have to pay the amount. So I had explained this also, the logic. Okay. So see, where the registered person who has availed of input tax credit opts to pay tax under section 10. Okay. Who has availed the input tax credit means he was paying normal tax. He was paying normal tax, goes in for composition scheme. He opts for the composition tax. Then what will happen? 10. Okay, or where the goods or services were both supplied by him become wholly exempt. Second condition. Either you go for composition scheme, or number 2, your goods become completely exempt. Then he shall pay an amount. See, reversal of credit has to be done, so you have to pay an amount by way of debit to electronic credit ledger or electronic cash ledger. If the balance is not there in electronic credit ledger, then we'll have to debit it to cash ledger, but we have to pay. How much we have to pay? Equivalent to the credit of input tax in respect of inputs held in stock and inputs contained in semi-finished goods and finished goods held in stock, and on capital goods also, reduced by such percentage points as may be prescribed. So again, that 5% per quarter we have to reduce, and the balance will have to be reversed on the day immediately preceding the date of exercising such option, or as the case may be the date of such exemption. Simple. And provided that after payment of such amount, the balance of input tax credit, if any, lying in electronic credit ledger shall lapse. Now this is an interesting thing. It shall lapse. So let me explain subsection 4 also. So as we have seen this chart, same thing applies. I can explain it here in itself. Okay, let's make a new one. So earlier my supplies were taxable. Okay. And from now on they will be exempt. They are exempted. So during this period, the inputs that I had received, inputs received in the factory or in the premises, ITC was availed, because the supplies were taxable, so ITC must have been availed. Okay, so ITC has been availed on all these inputs, but these inputs are lying in stock on this day, the day when the exemption is granted, or you go into composition scheme. So on this day, some of these inputs are held as it is. Some inputs are contained in WIP, and some inputs are there in finished goods stock as on this date of exemption. So again, what we'll do is we'll calculate these three, so we'll get the total quantity. Then we'll see that when these inputs had been brought to our factory during this period, during the last period which was taxable, how much credit has been availed. So we'll take ITC availed thereon. How much ITC has been availed, you find out. So if it comes to 1,23,000, for example. Okay. So what we have to do is you have to pay this amount. Now how do we pay the amount? Either by debiting to electronic credit ledger if there is a balance, if no, then cash ledger. So we'll take two examples. The balance in electronic credit ledger and electronic cash ledger. So the balance is, in the first case we'll take 2 lakhs, and cash ledger is again 3 lakhs. So you have huge balances. So what we'll do is we'll debit full 123 in electronic credit ledger. I've got balance here, so first we'll debit this to electronic credit ledger. So I'll deduct there 123. Means 123 is fully paid out of electronic credit ledger. We have sufficient balance. What will happen to the remaining amount in electronic credit ledger? Can it be carried forward? No. The law says that the balance in electronic credit ledger shall lapse. So now the balance in electronic credit ledger will be nil. Whatever the balance is, it will lapse. It will lapse. Okay. So that means that you cannot carry forward the balance to future period, because now your finished goods have become exempt. So your balance credit will lapse. Okay. And this is one example. Second example, we'll take that if suppose the balance is, now you can write down below this, if the balance in electronic credit ledger is only 1 lakh and electronic cash ledger is 50,000, then what I'll do, I will debit 1 lakh here. So this anyways becomes nil. So I have to pay 123. So out of 123, I'll debit 1 lakh to electronic credit ledger and 23,000 to electronic cash ledger. And then the balance of electronic cash ledger will continue, carry forward. The balance in cash ledger will not lapse, huh? Please. The credit will lapse, not the cash. Cash is my deposit. How can it lapse? So for inputs it's simple. You have to calculate the stock and reverse that credit by debiting to electronic credit ledger if there is balance, otherwise cash. Or if there is huge balance in credit ledger, then after debiting, the balance if any left will lapse. Okay. Now let's see further. And for capital goods it says it will be reduced by percentage points. So let me explain the capital goods also. So what we'll do in capital goods is that here we are under the taxable normal taxability zone, and then the exemption comes, so we become exempt, or you go for the composition scheme. So if you have bought an asset here, capital goods, and you have taken the ITC, the expected life is how much? 5 years. So just assume that if 2 years have gone, 2 years you have utilized it, and then you go for exemption scheme. The expected life is 5 years. Out of 5 years, 2 years means 40% has been utilized. So out of the total ITC of say 1 lakh, if we have taken 1 lakh, 40,000 is deemed to have been utilized here. So the balance which is left here, 60,000, shall be reversed. Shall be reversed. So you have taken full ITC, you might have utilized also, but out of that 2 years you have used the asset for during the taxability zone. So 2 years of proportionate is deemed to be used. The balance will have to be reversed. So this calculation will again be done at the rate of 5% per quarter. Okay, 5% per quarter of use, quarter or part thereof. And then it says that the amount of credit under subsection 1 and the amount payable under subsection 4 shall be calculated in such manner as may be prescribed, means against the rules. We'll see. And in case of supply of capital goods or plant and machinery on which input tax credit has been taken, supply. Now this is supply. 18.6 is supply, means you are selling off the capital goods or the plant and machinery. You are selling off. So you had purchased the capital asset, you have used it for 2-3 years, and then you are selling it off. You are supplying it. Okay. Then the registered person shall pay an amount, means this is again reversal. You have to reverse the proportionate credit. So we have estimated the life as 5 years. So suppose you have used it for 2 years and 3 years remain. So you have to reverse the proportionate credit of those 3 years, because now you are not going to use this asset, it has been sold off. Understood? So it says pay an amount equal to the input tax credit on the said capital goods or plant and machinery reduced by such percentage points as may be prescribed, means as per the rules, or tax on transaction value of such capital goods or plant and machinery determined under section 15, whichever is higher. So you will do two things. One, you will take original credit taken, reduce the quarters that you have used, the balance will have to be reversed. Compare it with tax on transaction value, whatever price you are selling off this machinery second hand, into rate of tax. So we'll calculate that also, and you have to pay whichever is higher. The reversal according to percentage points, the leftover credit, you can say leftover credit, or transaction value into rate of duty, whichever is higher, that is what you have to pay. Now we'll see this in rule, so we'll see the calculation also, don't worry. But there is an exception to that, and that is given in the proviso, that where refractory bricks, refractory means furnace bricks, right? On furnace bricks, molds and dies, jigs and fixtures are supplied as scrap, the taxable person may pay tax on transaction value only and not the proportionate reversal, because it has already become scrap, means the useful life is over. So then you will not do that first calculation, you will do only second calculation, transaction value into rate of duty. That's it. Straight away, whatever is the transaction value, you apply the rate of duty to it. That's it. That is what you have to pay. Then let's see rule number 40. So section 18 says as may be prescribed, as may be prescribed. So let's see what is prescribed in the rule 40. So there are 2-3 rules which are applicable here. We'll start with 40. It says the input tax credit claimed in accordance with provisions of subsection 1 of section 18 on the inputs held in stock or contained in semi-finished or finished goods stock, or the credit claimed on capital goods in accordance with the provisions of C and D. C and D we had seen. shall be subject to following conditions. Let's see. Firstly, the input tax credit on capital goods in terms of clause C and D of subsection 1 of 18 shall be claimed after reducing the tax paid on such capital goods by 5% per quarter of a year or part thereof from the date of invoice, underline, or such other document on which the capital goods were received by the taxable person. Now these documents we had seen earlier in sections 16, 17 and the rules. So whatever document is there, the duty paying document, the tax paying document, from that date we'll count the quarters and 5% per quarter will be reduced. So this example I had given in section 18 itself. Let's take another example. That this is the date of invoice of the capital goods, say 3rd of February 2019, say for example, and the day when you bring it to use. Now there are two situations here, C and D. So C and D refers to composition scheme and exemption. So we were either under composition or under exemption, and now we are out of composition, means we are paying normal tax, or the exemption is withdrawn and the goods or the services become taxable. So this is the date of that change. So in case of capital goods, what we do is we count the number of quarters. Now quarter will be counted as annual quarter. Now I have explained this point earlier also. Like this is February 19, so this comes in the quarter of January, February, March. It comes in the quarter of January, February, March. January to March 19 quarter, and then there will be April, May, June quarter, and then there will be further quarters. So likewise we'll calculate and we'll see in which quarter this date falls, the date when this transition takes place. So if this date falls in another quarter, say, so in between there are many quarters, so we'll count these number of quarters. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this date may be falling in one quarter, this date falls in one quarter. Both will be taken as full quarters because it says part or whole of the quarter. So we'll count the number of quarters. Now if this is, say for example, 7 quarters, if this is 7 quarters, then what we'll do is 7 into 5 means 35%. So there will be 35% deduction from the total tax on this capital goods as covered by this invoice. So if the total GST on this capital goods was, say, 1 lakh, so what we'll do is we'll do 1 lakh minus 35%, that is 5% per quarter. So remaining would be 65,000. 35% gone, 65,000 remains. So 65,000 will be allowed as input tax credit. Simple. Very simple point. Then come back. So that is clause A. 5% you reduce and then the balance you allow as credit. Second point says, point number B, that the registered person shall within a period of 30 days from the date of becoming eligible to avail the input tax credit under subsection 1 of 18, that is in all those 4 situations A, B, C, D, or within such further period as may be extended by the commissioner. So normal time is 30 days from the date you become eligible to avail the input tax credit, or you can take extension from the commissioner, shall make a declaration electronically on the common portal in form GST ITC 1 to the effect that he is eligible to avail the input tax credit. So you have to file a declaration GST ITC 1 on the common portal, provided that the extension of time limit notified by the Commissioner of State Tax or the Commissioner of Union Territory Tax shall be deemed to be notified by the Commissioner under Central Tax also. So this is to keep them at par. So if the Commissioner of State has extended the time, then it will be deemed that the central officer has also extended the time. So these are complementary provisions. They will complement each other, state and central tax. Then the declaration under clause B shall clearly specify the details relating to inputs held in stock. So in this ITC 1 that we are going to file, we are going to mention all these details, the stock details basically. Inputs as such, or in semi-finished or in finished goods, or as the case may be, the capital goods. Clause C and D will also have to mention the capital goods. On the day immediately preceding the date on which he becomes liable to pay tax, in the case of claim under clause A, so in clause A we had seen the day you become liable to pay tax is the reverse, that backdated entry. So this is the backdated case. The registration is granted later on, but it is granted right from the day when you become liable to pay tax. So it is granted backdated because you have made application within 30 days. So application is within 30 days of becoming liable, then the registration is granted, but it will be granted from backdate. Second point is the actual date of registration. This is in case of voluntary registration, actual date of registration, registration date. And in case of clause C, it is the date when he becomes liable to pay tax under section 9, that is when we come out of the composition scheme into normal scheme, normal tax. And in clause D, it will be the date of withdrawal of exemption. D clause is referring to withdrawal of exemption. So the day the exemption is withdrawn, that is the day when you have to submit the stock statement. Then the details furnished in the declaration of clause B shall be duly certified by practicing chartered accountant or the cost accountant. So you have to come to me. If you are the industry, you have to come to me, the chartered accountant, and get your stock certified. So the chartered accountant or the cost accountant will give the stock report. If the aggregate value of the claim on account of central tax, state tax, union territory tax and integrated tax exceeds 2 lakh rupees. So if the total credit to be taken, all the four put together, aggregate value of credit that you want to take is more than 2 lakhs, you have to take CA's certificate or the cost accountant certificate. If it's a chiller case, you are going to take credit of say 20,000, 5,000, 10,000, then leave it. No need for CA because the cost of CA will be much more than taking the credit. And the input tax credit claimed in accordance with provisions of C and D of 18 shall be verified with the corresponding details furnished by the corresponding supplier in form GSTR 1 or as the case may be GSTR 4 on the common portal. GSTR 4 is for the composition dealer and GSTR 1. So we have shown that we have purchased these inputs. So somebody must have filed GSTR 1. So this is that co-linking of GSTR 1 and GSTR 2. This we'll see in due course of time, maybe 1 or 2 lectures afterwards, how the linking is done. So this you'll understand. So the suppliers GSTR 1 and we are the recipient, we are taking the credit, so our GSTR 2 should match. They will be correlated and checked, cross-checked. Then subrule 2 says that the amount of credit in the case of supply of capital goods, do you remember supply of capital goods or plant and machinery for the purpose of 18.6. 18.6 says that if you supply the capital goods, means you sell off the capital goods, then the proportionate credit has to be reversed. I've given an example that the life is expected to be 5 years. So whatever time you have used it in your taxable business, taxable supply business, that is okay. The remaining part, proportionate amount for the remaining part has to be reversed. So either we calculate that proportionate amount or the transaction value into rate of duty, right? So that calculation, proportionate amount calculation will be done in accordance with this rule. So what it says? shall be calculated by reducing the input tax on the said goods at the rate of 5% for every quarter or part thereof from the date of issue of the invoice for such goods. Okay, so 5% per quarter is to be reduced. The same logic that we have applied earlier also for taking credit. So this is for reversal of credit. But now there is a controversy. There is a controversy here, in the sense that a contrary provision, so you just write down contrary provision given in Rule 44. So we'll see Rule 44, and in that we'll see that there is a contrary provision to this. So I don't know why the government has made two rules governing 18(6). So this is one section, Rule 40 sub Rule 2, and then we'll see Rule 44. I think sub Rule 6 is there. So we'll see that, and then I'll discuss that controversy which is there. Okay. So you just write down the 5% will reduce. Now you know how to calculate that 5%. So from the date of invoice till the date of supply, we'll see how many quarters have been used, quarter or part thereof. And quarters you all know: January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Okay, 4 quarters in a year. So any part or whole of the quarters will be calculated. 5% into those quarters, that will be reduced. The balance will have to be reversed. Okay. Then, and that balance will then be checked with or correlated with the transaction value into rate of duty, and you have to pay whichever is higher. And then 41 says transfer of credit on sale, merger, amalgamation, lease, transfer of business. This also we had seen in section 18. Same thing is given here. In fact, no need to read Rule 41 because it only gives you the declaration forms. Concept remains the same. So registered person shall, in the event of sale, merger, demerger, amalgamation, lease or transfer, or change in ownership of business for any reason, furnish details. Details you have to furnish in form GST ITC2 electronically on the common portal, along with the request for transfer of unutilized input tax credit to the transferee. So we have to request to allow us to transfer the credit to the transferee. Provided that in case of demerger, what happens is that two companies are formed. So there may be a requirement of splitting of the input tax credit balance. So that is also to be mentioned. The input tax credit shall be apportioned in the ratio of the value of assets of the new units as specified in the demerger scheme. In demerger, if 2 or more new companies are being incorporated or formed, then we have to split the input tax credit in the proportion of assets, the value of assets. Then the transferor shall also submit a copy of the certificate issued by practicing chartered accountant or the cost accountant, certifying that the sale, merger, demerger, amalgamation, lease or transfer of business has been done with specific provision for transfer of liabilities. Means it is a going concern, so that has to be certified by CA or the cost accountant. And the transferee shall on the common portal accept the details so furnished by the transferor, and upon such acceptance the unutilized credit specified in GST ITC2 shall be credited to his electronic credit ledger. So once the transferee accepts this, the ITC2 which has been filed by the transferor, once the transferee accepts it, then the amount will get transferred to him. And the inputs and capital goods so transferred shall be duly accounted for by the transferee in his books of accounts, obviously. Then there is a Rule 41A which has been inserted lately. Transfer of credit on obtaining separate registration for multiple places of business within a state or union territory. Earlier what used to happen is that if you had one business in a state, even if you had 5 branches, you had just one registration. But now you are allowed to have separate registrations even for your branches in the same state. Okay, so if say for example in Maharashtra I have got 5 branches, I can have 5 separate registrations. So in that case what will happen, let's see. 41A says that a registered person who has obtained separate registration for multiple places of business in accordance with provisions of Rule 11 and who intends to transfer. Now we'll see this rule later on in registration chapter. And who intends to transfer either wholly or partly the unutilized input tax credit. What we are transferring, the unutilized input tax credit lying in his electronic credit ledger to any or all of the newly registered places of business, shall furnish within a period of 30 days from obtaining such separate registrations the details in form GST ITC 02A electronically on the common portal, either directly or through facilitation center, obviously, provided that the input tax credit shall be transferred to newly registered entities in the ratio of the value of assets held by them at the time of registration. So what it means is that first you had one registration. Okay, you had 5 branches, but you had only one registration. So all your credit is lying here. Full credit is lying here in your electronic credit ledger. Now you take these 4 separate registrations under the new rule which allows you to take separate registrations. You go and take 4 separate registrations. So now all 5 premises become separately registered, of course with your same PAN. So this ITC credit which is lying here at the first premise can be transferred to second, third, fourth and fifth premises. You can transfer the credit here. But what will be the ratio of transfer? The ratio of transfer would be the assets A. The assets which are held on the date of this separate registration. Okay, so you have to see the value of assets and divide this credit in that proportion. Simple. An explanation says that for the purpose of this sub-rule, it is hereby clarified that the value of assets means the value of entire assets of the business, whether or not input tax credit has been availed thereon. So for division, the assets that I am taking here will mean total assets as per the balance sheet, you can say. Okay, and not only those assets on which credit has been taken. So we have to take entire assets. And the newly registered persons, that is transferee, shall on the common portal accept the details so furnished by the transferor, and upon such acceptance the unutilized credit as specified in 02A form number shall be credited to his electronic credit ledger. So the first premise will upload the details, and these new premises which are registered will accept those details. Once accepted, then the credit will be automatically transferred to the electronic credit ledger of those new entities. Simple. Then coming to rule number 44, which is given before section 18 in your books. Manner of reversal of credit under special circumstance. This is a case where you go from taxable position to composition scheme or exempt. If your taxable goods become exempt, or you are paying normal tax and you opt for composition scheme, then as we had seen earlier, you have to calculate the stock on the date of transition and reverse that credit, right? So let's see. This rule deals about that. 18.4 basically. So what it says, the amount of input tax credit relating to inputs held in stock means as such, or contained in semi-finished means WIP or finished goods, and capital goods held in stock shall for the purpose of subsection 4 of section 18.4 deals with that situation, or subsection 5 of 29, this we'll see later on, be determined in the following manner, namely, for inputs held in stock and inputs contained in semi-finished and finished goods held in stock, the input tax credit shall be calculated proportionately on the basis of corresponding invoices on which credit had been availed by the registered taxable person on such inputs. So this is done in the same way. On the date of change, the date of transition, you will calculate the stock and then see that this stock which had been bought some time back, what credit you had taken, and that credit that you had taken will be reversed. And for capital goods held in stock, the input tax credit involved in the remaining useful life in months shall be computed on pro rata basis, taking the useful life of 5 years. So what we'll do again is that we'll calculate the life of 5 years, and whatever period has gone that you have availed and whatever is balance you will have to reverse. So we had seen one example on this. I had given you that example. Same type of illustration is given here, that capital goods have been used for 4 years. So 4 years and 6 months and 15 days. The only thing here that we are doing is slightly different, and that you must note that we are not calculating per quarter basis. In all other cases we take 5% per quarter, but in this particular case it is said that you have to do it on pro rata basis, taking useful life of 5 years. Okay, so here we'll do it in months and not in quarters. That's the difference. You have to do calculation in months and not quarters. So we'll assume total 5 years as 60 months, and now see how many you have already used. 4 years, 6 months and 15 days. The useful remaining life in months is equal to 5 months. Means 4 years, 6 and 15 will be rounded off, so this will become 7. So 4 years and 7 months you have already used. 4 years and 7 months. So 4 into 12 if we do, 48. 48 plus 7 already used, means 55 months has already been used. 55 months used. So how many months remain? 5 months. So for that 5 months we'll do the reversal. So reversal will be input tax credit that you have availed multiplied by 5 upon 60. That much you have to reverse. Reversal. Also we'll call it as payment. It has to be paid back. Means you will debit it to electronic credit ledger, or if there is no balance in electronic credit ledger, then electronic cash ledger. And the amount specified in subrule 1 shall be determined separately for input tax credit of central tax, state tax, union territory tax and integrated tax. Obviously all the reversals will be calculated separately for each item. And where the tax invoices related to the inputs held in stock are not available, if the invoices are not available on the basis you have on the basis of which you have claimed the credit, then how will we come to know how much credit has been availed? So let's see. If the invoices are not available, the registered person shall estimate the amount under subrule 1 based on the prevailing market price of the goods on the effective date of occurrence of any of the events specified in 18.4, means the date of change, or 29.5. So on the date of change, that is on the date of transition, we'll estimate what is the market value of these inputs which are lying with us, and then on that value how much tax would have been paid and how much ITC would have been claimed. So we'll do on estimation basis. And the amount determined under subrule 1 shall form part of the output tax liability. Reversal means it will be added to output tax liability of the registered person, and the details of the amount shall be furnished in ITC 3, where such amount relates to any event specified under 18.4, and GSTR 10, where such amount relates to cancellation of registration, that is at 29.5, cancellation of registration. Then the details furnished in accordance with 3 shall be duly certified by practicing chartered accountant or the cost accountant. Then comes sub-rule 6. The amount of input tax credit for the purpose of subsection 6 of section 18. This we had also studied in rule 40. Okay, 40 sub-rule 2, I think, yeah. And there we had written contrary provision. So this is that contrary provision. So here also you write down contrary to rule 40 sub-rule 2. So these are contrary provisions. Okay. So let's discuss and then we'll see which one to follow and which one not to follow. Both cover 18.6. 18.6 is the case where we are supplying the capital goods. So it says relating to capital goods shall be determined in the same manner as specified in clause B of sub-rule 1. So here clause B of sub-rule 1 says that you estimate the life of 5 years and do proportionate calculation on monthly basis. That is the controversy. Rule 40 sub-rule 2 says quarterly. Take 5% per quarter. But here it says monthly. Means how many months have been used. You calculate on monthly basis. For the months that have been used you deduct and the balance number of months you reverse. So that is the controversial point. And the amount shall be determined separately for input tax credit of central tax, state tax, union territory tax and integrated tax. That is true. You have to calculate separately for each category of tax. And provided that where the amount so determined is more than the tax determined on the transaction value of the capital goods, the amount so determined is more than the tax determined on transaction value of capital goods, the amount determined shall form part of the output tax liability and the same shall be furnished in GSTR 1. Obviously, if this reversal is more than transaction value based tax, because we have to compare two things, this balance reversal or transaction value into rate of duty, and you have to pay whichever is more. So that's simple, right? And so the controversy goes like this, whether to apply this rule, that is monthly rule, or the quarterly rule. That is the controversy. And if you take my opinion, then you have to apply rule 44, because whenever there is controversy in terms of contrary provisions of law given in two different places, the later the better rule is to be applied. This is the rule of interpretation, later the better. So this is rule 44.6 and the other one is 42. So 42 comes first and 44.6 comes later. So this 44.6 will prevail. But that is my opinion, huh? That is my personal opinion. In fact, if you I have not seen the module issued by ICAI, so I would recommend you to go through the module if they have discussed this controversy, and if they have given some opinion on that, if they have given opinion, then follow that. Okay, Farooq Haq is secondary, first is the MyBap, the mother and father is the institute, so you follow institute if they have discussed it. If they have not discussed, then if the question comes in the exam, first of all you write both the provisions and then you mention there that there is contradictory provisions. 40 subsection 2 says follow the quarter rule, 5% per quarter rule, and 44.6 says follow monthly calculation, means proportion will be on the basis of months and not quarter. So that is, it will make hardly any difference, but some 2%, 3% difference will come in the amount, because in quarter you are taking part of the quarter. So suppose the use is of 1 month, 1.5 months, you will take 1 quarter. So straight away 5%. But if you take monthly, then 1.5 will be taken as 2 months. But if you take quarter, 1.5 will become 3 months. So that's why that slight difference will come in calculation.